Hi, it's Andy, and today I'm bringing you my March wrap-up. So it's currently the 31st of March, and I will not be reading anything else. I, in fact, DNF'd my last book of the month, and I'm not trying to squeeze anything in on this last day, especially since it's been a day. I've already had to take the chicken to the vet. Thankfully, she's not fine. She's fine, but she's not fine. She has a thing that needs medication, but she's fine in the sense that she has a thing that only needs medication, and then she'll be fine. So I've been chicken wrangling all day so far, and I'm a wee bit gubbed. Thankfully, I do have my trusty energy drink to get me through this time, unlike the last time when I was incoherent. At least that's what I'm hoping. And yes, my fringe is too long, so we're skipping over that. I've got an appointment on Thursday with the hairdresser, so ignore that. This month I DNF'd 2 books, which is unfortunate, but you know, it is what it is. Apologies, Vicky. And I read 14 books. So I don't know what happened this month that made me able to read 14 books, but I will take it. Apparently I have my mojo back. As always, I'll go over my DNFs first, and then I'll go through the books that I finished during the month. So the first thing I DNF'd was Love at First Night by Megan Clausen, which is really unfortunate because I loved her first book. I absolutely loved it. Falling Hard for the Royal Guard. I had to go look at what it was. I adored that book. I thought it was great. I thought the characters were great, but I think part of it was that a lot of the characters were based on people she knew. I don't know about this one, but like Falling Hard for the Royal Guard is about a girl who lives in the Tower of London with her dad, who works in the Tower of London, and meets a guy who's in the army and ends up in a relationship with him because romance. And Megan Clausen lived in the Tower, she's no longer does, she's moved out, lived in the Tower of London with her dad who worked in the Tower of London. He's retired, which is why they no longer live there. And her boyfriend is in the army. So I think it was a lot more personal to her. Whereas this just lost me. I do have her other book, Kilted Lovers, that I'll be reading next month, but unfortunately this just wasn't for me. I didn't find myself connecting to the characters. I didn't care about the characters. The writing just wasn't engaging for me, and I think that's definitely something I'm finding I struggle to see. If I start to skip, like I could skim read all the way through this book and know what it was about and just have no connection to it. I'm not doing that anymore. I used to do that, but I'm not doing that anymore, and unfortunately this was one where that happened. The last book of the month I also DNF'd, Old Flames and New Fortunes by Sarah Hogle, and this was for pretty much the exact same reasons as I DNF'd Love at First Night. I just couldn't get into this. I was skim reading it, I didn't care about the characters. In fact, I didn't really think I rooted for any of the characters, and I just find myself reading, like skim reading just to get through it. Oh, my arm of my chair is not there to lean on. There we go. I just find myself skimming it to get through it, and that's not what I want to do. I want to actually enjoy and engage with the books I'm reading. So if I find myself not able to do that, I'm just going to DNF. And it's unfortunate because I do have other Sarah Hogle books that I can't see now, obviously, because why would I be able to spot them easily on my alphabetised shelf? But I love Sarah Hogle's other books, and this one unfortunately just fell flat for me. I was confused, I was conflicted, I did not like the characters, I didn't care. Not to say this wouldn't be for, like, neither of these books are bad books. There was nothing inherently wrong with them. I just couldn't connect to the characters, which, you know, you're not going to connect to every book that you read. I should say, Love at First Night is our main character, Daisy, who has serious anxiety and probably agoraphobia, and has always lived in the same house in the same town, doesn't really leave it, doesn't really do much other than go to work at her dad's shop, which sounds like a really cool shop, to be perfectly honest. And her dad puts her in for this night school, KNIGHT school, because like they are all, like her whole family are LARPers as well, and so she's really good at swordcraft, and so she goes to this night school to teach swordcraft, and it's kind of a bit of a bust. Nobody really cares, and the kids are really just like meh. And there's also this guy Teddy, who basically is a royal who has been causing some issues, and so he's sent there to clean up his image, and he is going to do anything he can to make her life miserable. Yeah, that's about as far as I got. I was just like, you know what, he needs to get a grip, and why is she as a like teenager or just 20 something. I can't remember how old she is. I can't remember if it's like post uni or anyway. Like why is she responsible for that? Like why is an adult not stepping in to say you need to pay? Like he's just basically been flung in there and told behave yourself, and no, like somebody actually needs to have some oversight here. Sorry, that was just me. And this one is I want to say magical realism, but I really don't know at this point, from the point I got to, if the magic was real or just like not. I genuinely couldn't tell. But this is about our main character, whose name is Romina, but she goes by Ro. And she and her sisters work in this magic shop that's been in their family for generations until their mum sold it. I'd like to smack her, not gonna lie. Their mum sold it, and they have bought the owner, who's also their friend, has bought the building next to it as well, and it needs really a lot of repairs for them to actually make anything of it. And so they want to get a loan from his dad, who's an investor, but him and his dad don't really see eye to eye very well. So they go one day she goes with the owner, Trevor, to go appeal to his dad, and discover that it's actually a surprise party because he's getting married. And it turns out he's getting married to her ex-boyfriend's mum, the guy who broke her heart. Now, I didn't really like the characters, but that's by the by. So she pretends to date Trevor to make his ex and her ex jealous and like make them wish they were with them. And it's supposed to be a fake dating story, but yeah. Now, on to the ones I actually finished. So the first book I read was Apparently Sir Cameron Needs to Die by Greer Struthers. This is it's not historical fantasy, but like medievally type style fantasy romance. You'll see why I'm doing that in a second. About Sir Cameron, who is a gorgeous, beautiful, stunning knight, and he tends to not want to get into danger. His family sent him off because he's pretty useless, and they hope that he would die very quickly as a knight. But he's got this ability to survive because he just doesn't get into fights. He hangs back, he gets lost, he, does whatever he can to rock up at the end of the fight and be like, oh, okay, I'm not needed then, I'll just head out. And we open this book with the sorcerer, Murillo. Murillo, who goes up to the king's advisors, or king's, like, whatever, the person, and is like, I'm going to kill God. And they're like, sure you are. And then we skip years later, when Sir Cameron is around, and there's been a battle, a fight, a war against Murillo and the king, between them, for all these years. Murillo has aged, this has been like years and years and years, and Murillo is still determined to kill God. Now, there has been a prophecy where if the king basically sacrifices Sir Cameron, they will defeat Murillo. And so Cameron's friend, who is a creature of some kind, goblin, I want to say, elf, I don't remember, takes him to be sacrificed, basically, and he manages to escape, and he runs to the sorcerer Murillo and says, look, they have had a prophecy that if I die, you are defeated, so therefore you have a stake in me staying alive, so keep me alive. And Murillo's like, no. Fine. So he takes in Sir Cameron, who immediately is just the most annoying person that Murillo has ever encountered. And Murillo is a bit of a dick, I'm not going to lie. So he spends the entire time just being nasty to Sir Cameron. And Sir Cameron just spends his entire time being a useless pain in the butt. I don't like either of them. I did not. It's not that I didn't like it. It's like, it started off, I liked the first half. Funnily enough, a lot of people who do like this book don't like the first bit and like the second bit, which I liked the first bit, didn't like the second bit. So they end up kind of like, for Cameron being gay, which is also not allowed in the king's world, really likes Murillo, so he starts flirting with him and stuff like that. At one point Murillo turns him into a vulture. And yeah, the whole time Murillo's just been really nasty to Sir Cameron. A lot of people are just like, oh, it's banter. And you know what, if you see that as banter, I'm not like here to argue with you. But for me personally, it crosses the line too often. Like, there's a lot I would put up with from men and books, this crosses the line into like what I see as like very light bully romance. I keep saying it's almost like a bully romance, because I don't think Marulio says a nice thing about Cameron, and that really bothers me. Like, Cameron's like, to frame it as a romance, like, to frame it as like fuck buddies, fair. To frame it as a romance, I don't see it, because Marulio's just mean to Cameron, and Cameron is just like a masochist. I can't remember. He likes it. He likes that he's being mean to him. Like, he enjoys it. Don't get me wrong. Like, he really enjoys it. But I'm just not there for it. It's just not me. Yeah, so that sounds like something you'd enjoy. I say go for it. But for me, it just, and then the ending, there was another book that did the same thing, ending wise, and I was like, no, absolutely not, no. So yeah, this just unfortunately hit a few things that just aren't for me in books. But it was funny. The next book I read was a reread, and that is A Photo Finish by Elsie Silver. Now, this is part of the Gold Rush Ranch series. This is book 2, and the series is set before Chestnut Springs. So this follows Violet Eaton, who is the sister of the brothers who are in Chestnut Springs. But obviously in Chestnut Springs, she has an established like family and everything. So like, this is before, when she first meets her husband, Cole. Now, Cole is the brother of the owner of the farm that she works on. So she works on this farm, the Gold Rush Ranch, as a jockey and a horse groom. And she doesn't know until after like a while that Cole is one of the owners, because she doesn't know who Cole was when she first met him. So she joined this, it's not necessarily like a cam girl thing, but it's like a forum for adults to share conversations and pictures with each other, if you know what I mean. And she wanted to feel like out of her comfort zone, so she posts some photos of herself, and Cole messages her and is like, I would like to offer you exclusivity for money. So like, he'll pay her to send him photos and talk to him. And she's like, no. But they end up talking anyway, just as like they get to know each other. And Cole has like a lot of demons. He went to war and he came back a bit not himself, and he's been dealing with that since then, kind of like our brother Beau. In his book, you see him having to deal with a lot of issues, PTSD and stuff like that. Cole is in a similar boat, and then after she finishes her first race, he comes up to her and says something to her, and she realises who he is and is immediately like, oh crap. And he's like, why did I say that? Like, Cole in this is what I mean. Enter Cameron. Marulio is really mean to Cameron, and I don't like it. In this, Cole is a dick. Like, so much of it is him being a total dick to Violet. And yet I don't mind that, because in his head, like when you see his chapters, he's like, why am I doing this? Why am I sabotaging myself? Why am I being such a dick? Like, he understands he's doing it. He doesn't understand why he's doing it. He is working actively with a therapist, and he has a moment with her where he's like, apologises for his behaviour and explains like where it's coming from, and that like, you know, not that he excuses it, just that he like sits down with her and is like, look, I have these problems. For some reason it means I run my mouth. I'm very sorry about that. I am trying to better myself. And I appreciate that. You can be a dick, but you need to grow and apologise and, you know, do something about it. And that's why I appreciate Cole. I love this book. I love me a Wounded Soldier. I love. I don't know what is wrong with me, but I love books where someone is badly injured and has to recover. Like, if there was like serious injury, or even like PTSD, like even like, yeah, like PTSD and stuff like that, and someone has to recover. I love when there's like a really really like painful thing happens and they have to like work through it. I don't know why, I just seem to really enjoy that in books. I don't like it when it happens to people in real life. I like it when it happens in books, which is probably a nice safe way for it to happen, you know, because the people aren't real. But yeah, so this follows them. She ends up with a broken leg at her next race, and so she needs to move in because her bunkhouse is above the barn, so it's like upstairs, so she can't get up the stairs. So she ends up having to stay with Cole in the farmhouse because there's a bedroom on the bottom level, and the force proximity just... I love these two so much, honestly. I think this is my favourite book in the Gold Rush Ranch series. I love Violet, I love Cole. I'm out of focus. Can we just... Hello? Am I in focus now? Is it my eyes? Are my eyes out of focus? Sorry. If I was out of focus, I apologise. If not, my eyes are obviously not focusing well. Anyway, I love these two. I love their relationship. I love the conversations they have. I love that Violet goes from being this wilting flower to basically standing on her own 2 feet and being like, I might be young, but you're not going to push me around. And I love that about her. I love that so much. Like, she has 3 brothers plus Jasper at home who have been pushing her around her whole life. And she decides that no, she will not be that Violet. She will be New Violet. And New Violet does not take anyone's shit. And I love that for her. I love it, love it, love it. Anyway, yes, if you haven't read this, it is Elsie Silver's first series. You can tell that a bit with the writing. Like, there are bits, especially in the first one, I think, where you can tell that it's a debut. But I love it, love it, love it so much. Like, it will never be the Chestnut Spring series. Like, that always has a special place in my heart. But this series is fantastic. I love the friendships, I love the people, I love the characters, I love the horses. And yeah, this one though is my favourite. Next is In Her Own League by Liz Tomfordy. This is a spin-off book for the Windy City series. So the Windy City series is like Mile High, The Right Move, Caught Up, Play Along and Rewind It Back. I'm looking at them over there. And that series follows different people in different sports. So you get ice hockey, basketball, baseball, ice hockey is I think how it goes. And this one goes back to the baseball. So they're all friends. So you see them all like within each other's books, and you meet Monty, who's in this book, in book 3, I want to say, because he's the dad of one of the female main characters, and the kind of de facto dad of 2 of the male main characters from the other books. It makes sense when you read it. So Monty is the sort of trainer for the baseball team and the head trainer, and Reese is the new owner. So her grandfather has stepped back and given her the reins, and she is now the first woman to own a team in history. So she's dealing with a lot of like sexism. She's dealing from a lot of people who doubt what she can do, trying to manipulate her, trying to ice her out, and she has this relationship with Monty where they don't really like each other. Like, she comes out of the gate being hostile to him, and he's like, well, if that's how you're going to be, then fine. Like, he can give as good as he gets. But he doesn't realise that this is like deeper than he thinks she just doesn't like him. He's like, fine, obviously she's got a problem, but Monty is one of those people that needs everybody to like him at the same time, so he's like trying to win her over. But also like giving as good as he gets while also really crushing on her. Now, like, they are older, so like crushing, whether you want to use that term or not. And that's one of the problems that Reese has, is that she finds Monty so attractive, but she will not start her career by fraternising with one of her employees. That is not how this is going to go. She has so much on her plate, and she will not mess this up. She knows that someone is just waiting for her to drop the ball, and that is not going to happen on her watch. She knows so much about baseball. She grew up on what are they called? Like, on the pitch. I don't know what it's called. Like, she spent most of her time with her grandfather, like, at the club. She knew the players growing up. She loves the sport. She's studied it. She knows what she's talking about. She's got a business degree. She knows her stuff. And yeah, so we've got like a mix of like her trying to deal with all of that side of it, Monty trying to deal with the fact he thinks this might be his last season, he thinks he's going to get fired, while both also struggling with the fact that they find each other attractive. And I love reading this. I love that, like, there's a grand gesture, like Monty tries to save her and she's like, sit down, I don't need you to save me, I've got myself. And he's like, yeah, I'll just sit down, I'm fine, you got this, I'm behind you. Like, I love Reese, she is a boss. Like, I love Reese so much. I love the fact that although, like, she is that kind of strong female character where she doesn't need, like, the big, grand, like, I am woman, hear me roar moments. She is very calm. She is very steadfast. She is very sure of herself. And she's like, I will not let you, like, not in the sense of like Violet is like, I won't let you push me around. Because Violet needs to put like front up. Violet needs to like really gird herself. Reese just knows that she knows her shit. She knows that she knows what she's doing. And she won't back down. Like, this, if I had to pick a song for this, this book for Reese, it would be The Man by Taylor Swift. That is Reese down to a T. And I loved it. I loved it so much. I really enjoyed it. I'm so excited for the Wilder books, which are, again, it's a kind of a spin-off, but not. We meet the Wilder siblings in book 5, Rewind It Back. So it's kind of like you meet them and then we're going to go to their town and have their book. So I'm very excited. This just wrapped things up really nicely for me because I've been begging for a Monty book and I absolutely love that we got a Monty book. Next, I read Definitely Dead by Charlene Harris. This is the 6th book in the, I was going to suggest that spring series, that's definitely not it, in the Sookie Stackhouse, Southern Vampire Mysteries, True Blood, whatever you want to call it, series. And this follows Sookie, who has been contacted by the Queen of Louisiana, the Vampire Queen of Louisiana, to say that her cousin Hadley has died her final death because she became a vampire, and that she left everything to Sookie. And so Sookie ends up going down to New Orleans to clear out her estate, basically, and shenanigans happen. This is a world, if you don't know by now, because I have been talking about it, if you're new to the channel or whatever, and I don't know True Blood. I feel like True Blood's very popular. So Sookie is a waitress who works in a small town in Louisiana and lives in a small town in Louisiana called Bontemps, and it is like in the sticks. I mean, there are more in the sticks areas that you would find out about, but it is like in the sticks. And she is a waitress. She is happy with her life, happy with her job, and one day the vampires announce to the world that they exist. The Japanese have developed synthetic blood, so the vampires no longer have to use humans to feed. So they come out of the, They come out of the coffin, is how they said it. And Sookie is integrated into this world because a vampire comes into her bar one night and she realises that she can't read his mind. He's totally silent. And, oh yeah, by the way, Sookie is a telepath. So Sookie gets ingrained into this world. She finds out about the world of the vampires, or some things about the world of the vampires, about the shifters, we have wares, shifters, all that jazz. And yeah, Sookie just gets sucked into all these different politics and things that are happening within this world, and it's messy and it is amazing. I love this series so much. Honestly, I love the TV series, but I love the TV series as a separate entity. It did not do justice, I don't think, to the heart of these books, and they left out one of my favourite characters in the TV series, and I'm not over it. Next up is To Complete by Ali Hazelwood. This is, I believe this was like an audiobook or something. It came out as an audiobook, and they were only going to do an audiobook, and then eventually they've obviously released it as a physical novella, which I'm glad for, because not everybody can listen to audiobooks. Like, I don't like it when they only release one format of a book, and that includes physicals. If you're only releasing physical books, and especially, like, can you imagine this with the tiny writing that it has for someone who has like vision issues? Anyway, yes, I'm against only releasing one type of like thing for books. So I'm very glad that they decided to release this as a novella. And this follows 2 game developers who work at sort of feuding companies, but there's a game that is being developed based on books that our main character loves. She grew up with them. It's like my equivalent of Narnia. It's like for in The Magicians with the Philadelphia books, and for me with Narnia, like it's funny. I thought it was funny because I have been rereading The Magicians, so this is very similar. So it's this fantasy game that is based on the books that she loved as a child, and her dad used to read to her before I want to say he died, I'm not sure, but he used to read the books to her, and then she would read the books to him when he was sick. So they mean a great deal to her, so she wants her company to get this contract. But the thing is, her company's too small to really take on the contract, so the company that owns the game, that's making it, that's reaching out to these developers, have also asked her company's rival company to come on board, and so they want them to work together to make this game. And so they send them off to this retreat in the mountains, in the snow, to get along, basically, like, to see if they can work together. And she really wants this to work, so she's like, you guys will not ruin this for me. You will not ruin this for me. But one of the guys, the other developer that is there, is like her nemesis almost. She met him years ago, and things just kind of went spiraling, and she hates him, and he hates her as far as she is aware. And so she also, like, she's determined that everybody will be getting along. Whereas the other studio is like, why don't we just, like, we can totally do this. Why don't we just mess with them? And it's chaos. I love this book so much. I'm sorry, I'm spitting. I love this book so much. I actually am so surprised at the content that's in here. I do think it should have been a full-length novel. As a full-length novel, this could have been a 5-star. As a novella, I feel like there was just not enough for me to get into, and I think that's a thing for me with novellas, although I did like the other novellas that Ali Hazelwood wrote, although I think they were longer. But yeah, I think the novella format is just one that I don't have as much success with. So it was excellent, as always with Ali Hazelwood. It was excellent. It just, for me, lacked a bit of substance, which, you know, it's 187 pages. It's a novella. Of course it's going to lack substance, Andy. On the flip side of that, the next book I read was The Woman by Kristen Hanna, which is a chunky historical fiction. This is about a woman, obviously, called Frankie. And Frankie's brother joins the army, and is dispatched, what's the word? There's a word for it when the army are sent places. Deployed to Vietnam. So this is during the Vietnam War with America, although I learned now that it was North and South Vietnam fighting each other, but kind of it was more like China and America fight each other in Vietnam. And it was a hot mess. Oh my god, did I learn so much about the Vietnam War in this, and oh my god, am I so mad about this. Not the book, the war. War in general, but like, oh my god, some of the things, the war crimes that were committed during this war are unbelievable. Unbelievable. Whether they were recorded as war crimes or not, unsure. But in my opinion, some of the things that happened here, war crimes. War crimes. Anyway, so, Frankie's family are obsessed with military service. Like, all of her family, her ancestors, all the men were in the military, in the army specifically, or navy. Her brother's in the navy. Her dad was like, her dad couldn't serve because of, like, he wasn't eligible, but he is like held up. They've got a hero's wall in his office. He's held up this whole thing. So after her brother gets deployed, so she decides that she is gonna also be like, yeah, let's go with the family army thing, and she tries to go to the navy to be a nurse. And to be deployed as a navy, like a nurse on the ground. And they say, no, you're not qualified enough. You need more years of being a nurse, because she is a qualified nurse, before we will take you on. And so she then goes to the army. And they're like, yeah, sure, let's go. You're qualified, let's go. So she is then taken on, recruited by the army as an army nurse. She goes home to her parents, tells her, and her dad's basically like, absolutely not. No, absolutely not. No, we're not doing that. You're not going to war. Women don't go to war. Men go to war. And she's like, rude. And so it's too late. She gets deployed and she goes to this place in Vietnam, and it's kind of like a base, but it's like all like shackled together with whatever they can grab. And it is horrific. You know, you follow her from when she's like properly green, both in skills and experience and just colour from some of the things that are going on there, and through her time learning how to be an army nurse, how to deal with people who have serious, severe injuries, and injuries that you may not even be able to see, like mental injuries. And, you know, she goes from the visuals in this are horrendous, absolutely like horrific, but so well done. And she meets this man and is basically told, like, do not even touch a man in the armed forces, like, don't trust them. But she ends up meeting this man, and they start to get on, and they start to form a relationship. Now, just before she's deployed, her, like, when it's too late, that because she wanted to go out and join her brother, basically in Vietnam, he is killed in action. So, very quickly, she's like, oh my god, what have I done? But yes, it's too late. She goes out. She has these horrific experiences, but she also, with the two nurses that she bunks with, creates this friendship, this bond, this, you know, this group of people that she just really, really bonds with. And the friendships of these women are really what pull you through. And I really enjoyed this. I do think there were certain things that I feel like could have been done better. How? I don't know. I just didn't quite think they caught me as much as they could have, as they did in The Nightingale. But that's, is me thing. I love this book. I thought it was great. I was so scared to read another Chris and Hannah book after The Nightingale destroyed me. But I'm so glad I did, because this was so valuable, and I'm so happy to have read it, to have learned more, to have been able to take in a version of obviously what happened in somewhere like Vietnam. And it also goes into, later on, you see her as an advocate for veterans. And it talks about the long-term effects that some of the chemicals and the warfare that was happening had on not only the people of Vietnam, because she was also there, like, Chris and Hannah wrote into this very much a care and an advocacy for the people of Vietnam, who were basically just, like, they weren't really, it wasn't really them fighting. Like, yeah, they had, like, their guerrilla warfare and stuff like that, but, like, the Viet Cong. But, like, there were people who were just in villages who were getting napalmed. Just random villages getting napalmed. And I didn't know what napalm was. I knew there was some kind of, like, what's the word for, like, things that go on fire. But it's actually sticky and viscous. It's sticky and it's viscous, and it is unbelievably flammable. So once someone gets it on them, there is no getting off. You can't just dunk them in water. It will just stick to them, and it is vile. The way she describes some of these burns and the way that people were affected, like, she doesn't hold back. Women, children, babies, like, disabled people, everybody. The way she describes how these people were basically destroyed. This is what I mean. War crimes. How do you bomb random villages? Anyway, and, like, yeah, big advocate for, like, a lot of advocacy for the people of Vietnam. Also for veterans who went over there and were told one thing and the reality was actually something else. Government, they don't lie to you, surely. Sarcasm. Yeah, so I love this so much, and yeah, I went on a bit of a deep dive into the Vietnam War. Yeah, war crimes. Next, I read Catch Her If You Can by Tessa Bailey, which is the newest book in the... what's it called? There is a name for the series, but I can't remember what it's called. This one came with surprise edges. And this follows two characters actually we met in the previous book. One is the best friend of the main character from the previous book, which is Picture Perfect. And her name is Eve. And Eve has taken over ownership of what used to be a strip club from her dad in the small town. And she's turned it into a burlesque club. She wants to turn it into something else. Now, from a very young age, like, I'm talking 14 years old, the men and boys, especially, in this town kept asking Eve when she was going to get on stage. The way I wanted to go full Klaus or Elijah Michelson on some of these boys and men. Anyway, she's been getting that from a very young age. Disgusting, yes, I know. And Madden, who is the best friend of the brother of the main character from Picture Perfect. Yep. He moved from Ireland to this small town when he was younger, a lot younger, like went to school. His aunt took him in because his stepdad, I want to say, it was horrific. I think it was his stepdad. I'm pretty sure it was his stepdad was just awful to him. And he just was having a really bad time over in Ireland, so he came over and asked to stay, and he befriended the guy next door whose little sister was friends with her. And he kind of decided from then he was going to be her protector, and he has been in love with her for years. But she's been in a situation where her best friend has been in love with him for years. And she was like, I'm not going, like, my best friend likes him, I don't care. I'm not touching him, I'm not doing anything, I'm not even looking at him. We can be friends, that's it. But recently, like in the last book, her friend actually discovered that she doesn't actually love Madden. That was just her being a bit and she is now with someone else. And so she still decides, like, no, my best friend was in love with you, I'm not touching you. But they get into a situation where, I can't remember, she needs something. I think it's health benefits. Yes, she has taken on her sister's two young children, they're twins. and the boy, because they're a boy and a girl, can't remember their names, has recently been very, very ill, and he will need long-term care. I think it's nothing serious, but like at the time she's like, oh my god, what am I going to do? And so Marin decides to propose to her. He's like, marry me, you can have health benefits. And she's like, no, that's ridiculous. And then the little one gets sick, and she's like, okay, fine, for the kids. And he's like, for the kids? Totally. But his whole life, all he's wanted to do is protect her. But he, at the same time, he's just started as an NFL in NLB? He plays baseball. So he's just started from like the top tier teams, and he's kind of seems a bit of a outsider. They don't really gel with the team yet. There's this one guy, because he's a catcher, the guy that sits behind the person batting, and the pitcher who's on his team doesn't like him. So he ignores his calls. The team are losing. They have this whole thing, and so he's trying to deal with that while also trying to protect her. And she's trying to look after these kids while also trying to do something with the bar, which is failing, the burlesque bar. And we go back and forward between like the past and the present and see them as like young children, not young children, but like 14, 15, etc. And how they grow as people and how their relationship has developed. Generally speaking, like not relationship, but like their relationship to each other and how they've always been in each other's orbits. I really enjoyed this. Honestly, this series by Tessa Bailey might be my favourite. Yeah, I think it is my favourite from Tessa Bailey. I'm looking at my Tessa Bailey's, and I think this is probably my favourite series of hers. The way that these characters love each other is just something special. And I'm so glad that there was more. I thought there was only going to be 3 books, and there's 5. And I'm so happy. I tell you, I've been filming for 40 minutes now. I really hope I'm making sense. I really hope I'm making sense. I really hope Edit and Andy doesn't hate me right now. Next up was another reread, and that is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I said in my TBR, and probably other times, so many people have been talking about Powerless by Lauren Roberts, and not necessarily the connection, but like a lot of conversation has been being had about the connection between this and Powerless. Where a lot of Powerless seems to be very similar to Red Queen and other books, like a bit too similar, shall we say. I have not read Powerless. I DNF'd Powerless, but from the bit that I did read, I see the similarities. I didn't read very much. I DNF'd like 20 pages in, because Kai was a dick, basically, to a character who is meant to be like, who I can see as being like Evangeline in this. And yeah, I'm not getting into it. Anyway, it just made me feel nostalgic for this book, so I decided to pick up this book. This follows Mare, and Mare is a red. So there are red bloods and silver bloods, and the silver bloods are like the elites, the nobles, the king, the queen, all the nobles filter down. And the reds are like just the people, the peasants, shall we say. And they're treated very, very poorly. They're not treated quite like, it's not like a servant class or a slave class, but like silvers can like beat them in the streets and kill them and just get away with it. But they do have the ability to have jobs and earn and learn skills. But if you do not have a job by the time you turn, I can't remember if it's 18 or 19, you're sent to war, because the kingdom is at war with the kingdom next to it, and the Reds are basically kind of fodder. Because why not? Why not? So Mare is... her 3 older brothers have gone to war. Her sister has a trade, so thankfully she will not have to go to war. But Mare is coming to that stage where she needs to find a job, or she's getting sent out to war, and so is her best friend. Now, she one night meets this handsome stranger, and he manages to get her a job in the palace. Now, as she's watching this like fight, it's like a test of skills sort of thing, where the silvers show off in this like ring arena sort of thing. Mare ends up being knocked accidentally into the arena, and there's this electrical shield over the top of it. But instead of dying, Mare survives. And as it turns out, although she's a red, she has abilities like a silver, because all the silvers have abilities, whether they're able to use it for there are healers, there are people who can control your mind, there are people who can control plants and control rocks and earth and like your general sort of powers, metallurgy, that sort of thing. And Mare, as far as they're aware, is the first red they've ever found that has abilities like a silver, which is why she didn't die, because she has an ability to control electricity. And so the royal family, because this was witnessed, quickly whisk her away and claim that she is a long-lost silver, and that she was mistaken for a red. Her parents died, and a kindly red took her in and raised her as their own. But actually she's a silver, and, you know, we've found her again, and how amazing is that? And they betroth her to the younger prince. Now, as it turns out, the stranger she met is, in fact, the older prince. And he is the prince-in-waiting, the heir apparent, to the throne. But there's so much more going on in this world. The backstabbing, the snakery, the the politics. Oh my god, I love this book so much. I love this series, and I'm so excited to continue reading the series. Next, I read A Sea Change by Cassandra Clare. Now, I don't have my copy of this yet. It's still due to come in, but I managed to get an arc of it, so managed to read it through NetGalley. A Sea Change is kind of like it's a novella, a short story, about Matthew Fairchild, who we meet in the Last Hours trilogy. No, that's a lie. And the one after the Last Hour, the chain of iron, chain of gold, chain of thorns. I'm rereading the entire Shadowhunters currently. But Matthew is one of the characters we meet, and there are things that happen to him throughout that cause him to need to kind of step back, get away, and so he decides to go on a grand tour, as it were, kind of. In this, he is on a ship bound for somewhere in Europe, I believe, so it's kind of like a semi-cruise type thing, like a mini Titanic, if you will, without the sinking, and when he's on the ship, he realises, while he's having dinner with the captain and other VIP guests, that there are vampires aboard the ship. And when people start turning up dead, he's like, oh crap, I should probably do something about this. And he discovers that not only are there vampires on the ship, but there's another Shadowhunter. And so he and this other Shadowhunter decide to try and find out what's happening. Like I say, it's a really short book. It's 112 pages according to Storygraph. So I'm not going to tell you more than that, but it is such a good story for Matthew. I really, really like being able to see Matthew come out of the other side of some of the traumatic things that have happened to him. And I feel like this is a good setup for the next tie-in to the next series. I know the next series is goes back to the Blackthorns, but I do think we're going to have some more connection happening in the past. That is just my theory. Like, it feels like with a lot of what she's writing, she's going to weave in something. She likes to weave the past and the present together, so I feel like it's going to be significant, or at least like there's going to be some kind of link to the newer books. Next, I finally read And Now Back to You by B.K. Barton. I had an arc for this and I did not read it until it came out in paperback, so yeah, need to get better with that. I don't think that's going to get better, but I need to get better with that. This is the follow-up companion novel for First Time Caller. And this follows two weather correspondents, as it were. We have Jackson, who is the weatherman for the radio station where the first one is set, and Delilah is the weather person, or was supposed to be the weather person, for the TV station across the road. Now, these two don't really like each other. She's constantly getting on his nerves. Like, she parks wonky in the space next to his. He's constantly leaving notes, post-it notes on her car to be like, park properly, stop doing this, stop doing that. She's got, like, just a frowny face on a post-it note. And Delilah has been having a time because her boss keeps sending her on ridiculous pieces. So, like, the current one that she's on when we meet her is about a sea turtle. And she's dressed as a turtle, as a sea turtle, flippers and all. And then they're pulled into a meeting with Jackson, his boss, Delilah and her boss, and there is a historical storm coming to the area, and so they decide to send them out to this place that is going to get hit worst with the storm, so they can both report on it from there. Now, Jackson does not do well outside his scope of like the weather that he does on the radio. He does not do it. A camera goes on him and he loses all decorum. And he also does not want to be stuck with Delilah because they know they're going to be snowed in for days. That's the whole point. Jackson, however, also doesn't want to go because he looks after his twin sisters. So they are much younger than him, and his mum is basically, deadbeat doesn't even cover it, she is a selfish, and so Jackson has taken on care of his sisters and he doesn't want to leave them. They're like 15 and he's like, I can't just disappear for like a week. But friends from the previous book, they're like, look, we've got the girls, you go do your job, it's fine. The girls are so excited to spend time with them, and he's like, okay, fine. So he steps out of his comfort zone and he goes, and they spend that time there. But these two also have a bit of a romance brewing. Like I say, her boss is trying to mess with her, so it ends up they have to share a room at the hotel that they're staying in, and the first proximity, the only one bit, all the tropes I love are in this book, and I love these characters. Like, Delilah is a hot mess, but she's trying so hard not to be. This is like if autism met ADHD. Like, she is so all over the place, and she's not even trying, like, she's trying her best to do her best, and things just keep going wrong. Like, some of it is other people, like, messing her up, some of it is just Delilah being a bit chaotic, and Jackson is so autistic coded, it is unreal. The way he needs things to be exactly the same, like, he has his routine in the morning, he has his routine at work, he has the things he does, like, it's all regimented. At first I was like, does he have OCD? Like, are we going for an OCD type thing? And then the more I got into it, I was like, no, he doesn't have OCD, but I think he has autism. It's never ever said in the book, never ever said, but the way he read was very much, it felt autistic coded. And the fact that people were messing with him, like, they would move stuff, like, they would change his particular brand of something, or they would mess with something, it was driving me nuts. I was like, your friends make better enemies, frankly. Anyway, yeah. But I love this book so much. These two are so cute together, and I love the way that they care about each other, they care about the people in their lives. Delilah's granddad has Alzheimer's, and so she's struggling with that and kind of struggling alone as well. This book, so good, handles so many hard things so well, without having to get, like... There are some books that deep dive into things like that and do it fantastically. There are some things that sort of add in and do it really, really well, and that's where this is. It's not like it doesn't deep dive into things, but it handles it very, very well. Whereas I've had a problem lately with books that will mention something and then just be like, box ticked, off we go. Like, okay, we've talked about disability, or we've talked about racism, or we've talked about sexism, or we've talked about this, tick box, off we go, and it's never mentioned again. This is woven into the story, but not in a way where you're going like into a rabbit hole with it. Again, both can be done well, but this, I'm just saying, like, you're not getting into the nitty-gritty about it, but it's still handled very, very well, in my opinion. Next, I read The Book of Blood and Roses by Annie Summerlee. This is set in Scotland, and I do love me a book set in Scotland when it's done right, and this was done right. This took the setting of Scotland, and it, I feel, used it as a beautiful background for this story. Like, she didn't get into, like, some of the tropes that other people do when they're writing about Scotland, and I really, really appreciate that. So this is about our two main characters, whose names I forget because it's me. So Rebecca is this is, you understand why. Rebecca is a vampire hunter, and she has to go undercover at this vampire university. So it's a university for vampires, which has this year decided to open up to non-vampire students, so human students. And as she goes undercover, she goes by the name Cassie. That's why I struggle with the names. So she ends up being roomed with this vampire called Alice? A-L-I-Z, Alice Astra. Alice, I think sounds better. Anyway, she ends up being roomed with her, and she's like, excuse me, why? Because she has been sent there to get the Book of Blood and Roses, which apparently has all the ways to destroy vampires, and obviously the vampire hunters want to get their hands on this. But as you can imagine, she is the lowest ranking on the vampire hunter sort of radar, and they're not telling her everything. There are things that are just very, very suspicious, and I didn't trust anybody. Through this entire book, I was so untrusting of so many characters. This kept me, like, on the edge of my seat the entire time. I loved it. She's exploring these tunnels under the academy. I just ended up loving this book. Like, this is a sapphic romance as well between the two of them, but it's not like they don't like each other for it. Like, it's an enemies to lovers in the sense that obviously Rebecca, Cassie, she hates vampires. Vampires killed her parents, and so she hates vampires. She wants to exterminate all the vampires from the world. Alice is a vampire, you know, and they don't get on. She's like the kind of like head of the council's daughter, who's been groomed to be the next head of the council. So yeah, they're really like opposite ends of this world, and yet they find humanity in each other, and they find that really at the end of it, they're just women, they're just girls, they're just people who want, you know, love and friendship, and it seems to sound right. I know what I mean. This book, I loved it so much. I loved their relationship. I loved watching Cassie, Rebecca, like try and deal with her conflicting feelings, because to her, all vampires are bad, all vampires are evil, all vampires across the board just want to kill humans. That is what she thinks of them. But she's discovering at the school with the friends that she's making and the people that she's talking to that it's actually a lot more nuanced than that. And I love me some nuance, and I love people who have black and white thinking discovering the shades of grey. Next up is Heartstrings by Ivy Fairbanks. This is a companion sequel, I can never think of the word, to Morbidly Yours, which I absolutely adored. And this follows one of the friends of the guy from the first book, and the cousin of the female main character from the first book, and they're getting married, and so the cousin has moved over to Ireland to pursue her medical school, so she's a resident intern in a hospital, and these two dated for about 6 months before he decided to take an offer that he got for a music contract and move to London to pursue that. And now she hates him for that. Like, he broke her heart, and she is so angry with him. But they obviously end up having to come together because he is the best man and she is the maid of honour for this wedding. And so they have to do a lot of things together. And she starts to realise that maybe some of the things that she had perceived are not quite correct. And he is still hung up on her and wants to know how to like make it up to her, while also trying to pursue his dream and support his family. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. I did think it just fell a bit flat for me. I loved the first one. The first one was incredible, and this just didn't quite hit right for me. I feel like it needed to be a bit longer and dive into. This is what I was talking about. This had issues brought up that I feel like we just skimmed over a little bit, like her relationship with her mum and her dad, and his relationship with his family. They weren't fully actualised, and I feel like had they been properly dealt with, had they been, you know, satisfactorily done, this book would have been far better. But to me, it just fell a little bit flat, which is unfortunate because I loved the first one. I will, however, read more from this author because I feel like they have a really good voice and a really good handle on just messy people. Next up, and we're almost there, I promise, 2 more books to go, is The Magician's Land by Lev Grossman. This is the last book in the Magician's trilogy. I finally finished my reread and I love this. I actually love this more this time than I did the last time. So after the events of our last book, Quentin is trying to get his life back together and figure out what is he going to do. And what he does is get himself into a mess, because that is what Quentin is wont to do. We're introduced to a new character in this, Plum, and she is also has some chaos caused and ends up having to try and figure out what she's doing with her life. I love this series. I love this series. It is 100% unbelievably heavily influenced by Narnia, and you can fight me on that. Like the dedication in this, or not the dedication, but like, you know how there's sometimes a quote before it starts, is Further Up and Further In by C.S. Lewis in The Last Battle, which is the last in the Narnia books. This is very, very heavily influenced by Narnia, and I love Narnia. Like, Narnia has a special place in my heart. And this is a very, very, very dark sort of not reimagining or retelling, but like inspired trilogy. So it is about magicians. So Quentin ends up going to this magician school. I've talked about this so many times now, you must know what it's about. Quentin's due to go to an Ivy League school, but something happens. He ends up doing this exam to get into this magic school. First book covers the whole magic school. The first book is all magic school. It is not a magic school series, it's just the first book. That is what I think some people don't understand when they read this book. So it goes through their like 5 years at Breakbills, like that. There he finds friends, he finds love. Every character in this is a horrible person. They're all awful people, but they know they're awful, and they are, you know, they're just young, but they do improve and they try to get better, and they have like, they're human, and I like that about them. They're messy and human. And Quentin has this love for these books called Fillory and Further, which follow, this is where I'm like, which follow 5 siblings who were sent to their aunt's house during World War One. As it turns out, it's not World War Two, World War One, and because they talk about it more in this. And while they're there, one of them goes through a grandfather, like climbs into a grandfather clock and ends up in this world of Fillory. And so throughout the years, the kids go on adventures. They become kings and queens of Fillory. And yeah, Fillory's a lot darker than Narnia. That's the one thing I love about this, is how dark it is, because it's kind of like the grim version of Narnia. The Grimm tales are always much, much darker than the sort of fairy tales that we know, or the original fairy tales are darker than like the Disneyfied versions. I love this. There's a lot to do with, I really don't want to say too much. It is very, very dark. The trigger warnings are up the wazoo. I could not possibly list off all the trigger warnings for you, but if you would like to read this and you have something you want to keep in mind, please ask me about it. I'm more than happy to discuss it and tell you if it's in it or how much of it is in it. Like, there are some things that are in this, like trigger warning wise, that only happen like maybe once, and then you can you can get past it. If you can get past it, then like it doesn't happen again. And some people are okay with that. Some people are okay if they know what's coming, that sort of thing. Like, so I'm more than happy to help anybody out if they want to read this series. But yeah, I there's so many. I think the only thing that doesn't happen in this is like animal death, which is the thing I don't like. And saying that, it's weird because in this world there's a questing beast. There are multiple questing beasts, but if you like shoot it, if you catch it, you can get 3 wishes. So of course you have to like shoot it. And there's one where like you have to, I'm pretty sure this is like at some point there's one where they cook it and eat it, and the next day it comes back to life. Like you keep the bones and then it re-thingies. So that's like a totally different ballpark for me, where it's like functional almost, or like, I hate drawn out animal death. That's why I hate Deleting by Lauren Oliver. And somebody mentioned that book the other day and I brought it all back because that was horrific. Anyway, yes, if you want to discuss trigger warnings, please contact me. I'm more than happy to help you out with that, but I cannot promise to remember everything that's in it. And so the last book I finished in the month of March is The Roommate Risk by Talia Hibbert. I thought this book was a sequel to The Princess Trap, and it says it is. Like, it's part of Midnight Heat, which is the series name, and it's book 2, but I don't remember any of these characters being in the book. Like, to me, a sequel is like, or is it combined, like, with this one, with this one, they're both mentioned in the book. You meet them both in the previous book. The characters from the previous book are in this book. That, to me, is what I would think of as a sequel. This says it's in the same series, but I don't remember any of these people. So it follows Jasmine and Rahul, and Jasmine is having some issues. So she works as a lawyer at this charity, so she doesn't get paid very well. So she's living with one of her kind of friends-ish who has a rich daddy who has bought her a flat because she wants to try and be independent. And she thinks she's I don't know, she's like that white girl that thinks she's a Rasta and she has like dreadlocks and stuff, and like, but she's actually just rebelling against Daddy in a really silly way. Anyway, Jasmine is living with her, and she comes home one day from work and the upstairs flat has flooded her bedroom and all of her stuff is destroyed. So while that is getting repaired, she goes and lives with her best friend Rahul, who has been in love with her for the entire time they've met. Since they met at uni, he has been besotted by her, but he would rather have her in his life at all than like be with her. She told him she's not interested in a relationship, period, when they were younger, like when they met at university. She was very, very clear that she does not want to be in any kind of relationship. That is it, like, bottom line. And so he, instead of pushing and being like, well, but I like you, but like, instead of pushing for that, he's like, okay, I would rather have her in my life in any way than try and push something on her that she doesn't want. And so they've been best friends for years, but he's never really been able to get over this love he has for her. And Jasmine is the kind of person that, like, she'll sleep with someone once and then never see them again. Like, that's all she wants out of a relationship. But while they're stuck in the same place, things start to get a bit more complicated, she starts to realise that maybe she has feelings for him and she doesn't know how to handle that. Again, she's in a situation where her dad is very rich, but she wants to survive off of her own money and not rely on her dad. Her dad made his fortune. Like they started off poor, and then her dad got really rich, and then her mum left because her mum's yeah. We're loving the deadbeat mums in this month's TBR. And so because of the way her mum left her, it left her feeling a bit unlovable. And that has affected the way she's looked into relationships and how she has dealt with partners and things like that. Like I said, as these two live together, things get a little more complicated. She starts to realise she has some sort of feelings for him. He starts to not be able to really keep her at an arm's length, which he's been doing. Not healthy, by the way. Neither of how these two are coping with things is healthy. And it's funny because I want to say the communication starts to break down, but the communication starts to break out. Like, they start to have to communicate with each other. This book is really just centred around orbiting these two in their relationship. And unfortunately, that is what flattened it out for me a bit. We meet Jasmine as she is comforting her other best friend. And then when she starts, when the whole thing starts up with Rahul, suddenly this girl's chop liver. She doesn't even speak to her, she doesn't mention her, they stop. It insulates into just those two in this flat. They don't do anything, they don't go to work, they just are in this flat together. And I'm I wanted it to be more. If it had... The thing I love about Tessa Bailey is her dynamics between multiple groups and multiple people and the way she does her characters, but for some reason in this one it was so insular and I just didn't like it. It's just a purely preference thing. I liked that they were discussing things, I liked that they were communicating, I liked that they were dealing with all their nonsense internally as well. They also had a moment where she had to step back and look at herself and deal with her own thing before she could be with him. And I greatly appreciate that. It kind of reminded me in that way of Daydream, the end of Daydream, but I just got so bored. It was just sex scene after sex scene after sex, and I got so bored. I want more than that. I wanted more than that. There we go. Those are all of the books I read and or DNF'd in the month of March. If you want to discuss any of them, please do in the comments. If you want to leave me an emoji to let me know what you were here, if you leave me some kind of music related emoji or medical related emoji for heartstrings. And thank you so much. I will see you in the next video. Bye!